The body was found buried in the backyard and dismembered in the ground.
Months after police say he killed his wife and buried her remains in their backyard, 54-year-old Mohammed Ali Mused has formally been arraigned for her murder. Prosecutors say it was March 18th when Buffalo police were called to the scene of a violent stabbing here in the 100 block of Broadway. Police then found the remains of Mused's 42-year-old wife, Muna Abdul Rahman, in a shallow grave.
Allegedly, the defendant cut off the head of his wife, cut off her arms, and cut off her legs, and buried it in the backyard.
March was when the pandemic began, which led to months of isolation, financial stress, and overall anxiety, which is anything but what domestic violence survivors need.
Victims were forced to shelter in place with their abusers with no outlets because community locations were closed, courts were closed.
Sarah Grady with Child and Family Services says calls to its domestic violence hotline increased dramatically, while those who sought shelter at Haven House, an undisclosed location for DV victims, dropped from 95% capacity to as low as 57% capacity during the height of COVID.
You know, there were folks who were stuck at home and were not able to come into the shelter.
Over at the Family Justice Center, CEO Mary Murphy says calls to its domestic violence hotline increased 75% during COVID. She says it wasn't just victims, but concerned neighbors, family members, co-workers, and friends. The Family Justice Center saw a huge uptick in those who had been strangled, sexually assaulted, and raped. Murphy says during the period between March until last month, the Family Justice Center says it dealt with more high-risk cases than ever before. Last year, there were 14 domestic violence murders in Erie County. And while stress levels have been high this year during the pandemic, Flynn says the Mused murder has been the only one in the county so far this year.
I don't think that anyone really has a complete picture of what is going on out there because of the virus.
If you're looking for help with domestic violence or you know someone who is suffering, help is available. We have 2 phone numbers of 24-hour assistance right here on the screen. You can call them at any time. Hannah Buehler, 7 Eyewitness News.